Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from WaterBear171. It's a bit of an older story, but I saw the title and I thought, bloody hell, we gotta read this one. And it says, my boyfriend just got married. Not to me. Am I an idiot for staying in the relationship? Yeah, you heard that right. 25 female and 25 male. Have been together for 8 months. My boyfriend is in the military and absolutely hates his job, and especially having to live on a base with 18-year-old idiots in a place where his boss can come find him at any hour of the day or night and tell him to do something. Having had my fair share of bad living situations, I completely understand how one facet of your life can make such a big difference, and I know how much he wants out. The problem is, he isn't a high enough rank to live off base unless he's married. He's brought up the idea a few times before, and I always told him it upset me to think of him marrying someone else, even just on paper. Last week, he started pursuing it more intently with a co-worker of mine who is Canadian and hoping to gain citizenship. We had a long talk and I told him all of my concerns, and he told me that he was thinking about it as solely a business deal and that it wouldn't change anything between us. I still told him I really didn't want him to do it. The next day he picks me up at work and tells me he's meeting the girl to go get married that evening. I flip. He drops me off and it takes me a 3-hour walk to talk myself into staying in the relationship. But he showed little to no remorse about it when we talked later. Just gave a trite apology when asked for one and hasn't been doing anything to try and make it up to me or make me feel loved and respected. I am absolutely in love with him and want to be with him. I feel like we mesh so well and we're perfect for each other. He assured me that he loves me and he doesn't want our relationship to be temporary, etc. He won't be living with her. He'll get his own apartment and she'll just have her name on the lease and that will be her official residence. They'll have a joint checking account just for paying rent and bills, etc. Honestly, I see this working out very badly and I'm pretty sure they're not going to get away with it. All of his co-workers and bosses know me or about me, so him suddenly being married to someone else is going to be a giant red flag. Not to mention, they're trying to screw with immigration laws, which is just such a ridiculously stupid idea since any casual look into either of them will make it obvious that they're not in a relationship, haven't had communication with each other before about a week ago, and are doing this as a scam. But there's no reasoning with him about it. Am I being stupid for staying in this relationship? Just because I'm in love? Or is that enough to make it worth staying and trying to work things out? TLDR, my military boyfriend just entered into a contract marriage for benefits and citizenship. She's Canadian. I don't know if I'm stupid for trying to convince myself to stay. Alright, we'll just gloss over the fraud for just a second, because bloody hell, that in itself is enough. But the relationship stuff, you know, she said no repeatedly, that she didn't want this. He kind of listened, nodded, and then went and did it anyway the next bloody day. He made a unilateral decision, and that's basically it. But everything else about this is a fucking bad deal anyway. He's still calling it a business deal. He's committing fraud. And now he has a shared bank account, a legal spouse, and a woman whose name is literally on his lease. And even after all this, there's no remorse for it. There's no, any apology. Sorry about this or anything. He's just shrugging and saying, oh, I still love you though. 100% get out of that situation. I mean, how long have they been together? 8 months. Only 8 months and this shit's going on. Yeah, get out of there. Brother is complaining about 18-year-old idiots. And then he's doing this shit. But the first commenter says, are you kidding? Yes, you're an idiot for staying in this relationship. For the record, what your boyfriend is doing is incredibly illegal. I believe the penalties for doing this are also much harsher for enlisted than for a civilian, if or when he gets caught. Opie says, yeah, I know. I think he made an incredibly stupid decision. The potential consequences for both of them are incredibly high. He could get fired, which will have major negative impacts on the rest of his life trying to get jobs. She could get deported. They could both be fined ridiculously and or go to jail. It just sucks because before this happened, everything was so wonderful with him. We're so ridiculously happy together. He just made a stupid, irresponsible, reckless mistake. Remember, Coombe Valley says this is not a mistake. This is a series of decisions. Don't give him that mental out. This is deliberate and carefully chosen. It's phenomenally dumb, but it's not an accident. First of all, OP, stop talking yourself into staying with this guy. It's also been 8 months. He's showing you who he is now. And who he is a real dick. He's defrauding his government. He's going to end up dishonorably discharged and unemployed, and he obviously has no respect at all for his relationship with you or for you yourself. Love is great. Love is important, but love is not enough. Quoting, I feel like we mesh so well, and then says, then why isn't he listening to you when you tell him how uncomfortable this makes you? Quoting again, and we're perfect for each other, and then says, then why is he marrying someone else? This might actually be the best guy you've ever dated, OP. This might be the healthiest, sanest, most pleasant relationship you've ever had, but it's still not good enough. It's not what you deserve. Move on. OP says, that was really hard to read, because it is the very best relationship I've ever had. I feel more strongly about him than anyone I've ever been with, but I'm afraid you might be right, and it really, really, really sucks. Seraph says, a number of things going on here that are both against military regulations and federal law. 1. Adultery is forbidden in the military. Not because they care who screws who, not because of situations exactly like this. Marriages of convenience are punishable by the UCMJ. If he's caught with you after he gets married, it's all over. 2. Immigration fraud is a federal offense. It's actually called benefit fraud. It carries a sentence of up to 5 years in prison and fines of up to $250,000. 3. Marriage fraud in general is against the UCMJ. Here's a story of a few guys caught doing this, and then shares a link to those stories. All of that aside, why not just marry you? If he's really that intent on doing this just to get out of the barracks, horrible still, but less illegal and considerably more believable. He doesn't seem like someone who returns your feelings as strongly as you'd hope he does. Kick him to the curb. On the question of why not just marry OP says he could, but he's not ready to actually be married, so it would still be a contractual thing. And I'm not about to do that. He actually proposed it once, then told me he felt guilty for thinking about using me that way. Someone says, has OP spoken to the bride-to-be? OP says, yeah. She's on a student visa. I actually talked to her today to try and talk sense into her. Not to save the relationship. It's definitely clear that's over now, but because she doesn't deserve to be deported or jailed because he's an idiot. Apparently, all she wants is permanent residency, not citizenship. Just for things like access to scholarships and other opportunities that are not available to international grad students. Still, I imagine this is going all kinds of wrong. OP then edited in the same post and says, thanks internet strangers. I think I knew as soon as it happened that the relationship was doomed. Honestly, on Thursday when we talked about it and he was so completely resistant, I knew. But he tried to make me believe that I was the one being selfish and reasonable and overly emotional. And because I love him, I tried to believe him. I tried to convince myself that I could excuse this, that it wasn't a big deal, that it wasn't worth breaking up over. I needed strangers to tell me that I'm not the insane one, that it's insane to think about being with a person who would do something like this. So thank you for the validation. Then 2 weeks later, OP came in with an update that was titled, I feel like I'm not allowed to be sad about losing the person I love just because it ended badly. They said, I'm not looking for advice. I just feel like I needed a safe place to express what I'm actually feeling. My 25 female, ex-boyfriend 24 male, did something so incredibly, unbelievably hurtful, thoughtless and disrespectful, and then tried to make me feel like I was being irrational for thinking that we couldn't make it work. For the full story, see my post we just read. That I had to break up with him after an 8-month relationship. May seem like nothing to many of you, but it was the longest relationship I ever had, so it seems epic to me. His actions during this time showed me clearly that he had little to no regard for me and never truly loved me. In fact, when we were breaking up, he actually told me that it was never real. Obviously, while I was and am angry, I'm angry that I was treated that way. I'm angry that he would do that, say that. I'm angry at myself for ignoring the warning signs and staying with him as long as I did. I'm angry at her for marrying him. I'm angry with both of them for going on a camping trip together with people I introduced him to. People I have to work with. Less than a week after we broke up. I'm angry. But I'm also really sad. It hurts that I lost my best friend, the person I was closest to, the person I loved. It is painful to lose my companion, the person I spent at least 48 hours straight with every weekend. It's really hard to try and figure out how to be alone, even though he never thought about it in these terms, even though it was never real. I miss being an us. I'm really heartbroken and I miss him. And that's the hardest thing about this. Because of all of my friends are rallying to my side and supporting me and calling him an arsehole and telling me how much better off I am without him. And that I shouldn't have a problem getting over such a thoughtless idiot. But I am. And I can't go to them with my sadness. They won't get it. They tell me he doesn't deserve my tears. They won't allow me to feel what I'm feeling. It confuses and angers me too. Because I know it's true that I'm better off without him. I can look back in time and identify red flags. I can see actions I excused as what they really were, selfish and thoughtless. I know that I deserve better and I don't want him back, but I'm still really sad that I lost him. This is a terrible ranting post and I'm sorry. Thank you for giving me an outlet to express my confusing emotions and grieve for my failed relationship, for what we had, for the dreams I had of what could have been. And of course, OP is 100% valid in their feelings, feeling that way. And like I always say in stories like this, it always just feels like in those moments, like a grey cloud is like all around you. You can't see past the end of your nose. And then as time goes by, as you live your life, get to experience new things, go out with your friends, and it just slowly starts to dissipate. And hopefully you can see a lot further to your future and things become a lot better. That's the way I kind of like to picture it anyway. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from No Technician 806 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. And it says, am I the arsehole here for refusing to change my bridesmaid's dress after already paying a deposit? I'm supposed to be a bridesmaid in my friend's wedding. A while ago, I found a dress I really liked and sent it to the bride saying I thought I found the one. She replied saying it was amazing and she loved it. So based on that, I went ahead and put a deposit down on it. Important context, the bridesmaids are paying for their own dresses. Now, after I paid the deposit, another bridesmaid had messaged our group chat saying the dresses are supposed to be satin or silk and that my dress doesn't match the vibe. She said I could just get changed because it will ruin the aesthetic and the photos. The problem is that no one ever clearly told me the dresses had to be satin or silk. It might have been briefly mentioned once in a conversation, but it definitely wasn't presented as a strict requirement. If it had been made clear, I obviously wouldn't have bought the dress I did. I'm also a bit annoyed because I checked with the bride before paying the deposit and she said it looked nice. If there had been an issue, that would have been the moment to say something. She's also now saying that I didn't check with her and just said I'd bought it. Now I'm being asked to change the dress even though I'm the one paying for it and I've already put money down. I don't really feel like that's fair. At this point I'm considering just stepping down from being a bridesmaid because the whole thing has turned into drama and I don't feel comfortable. Am I the arsehole for refusing to change the dress? Although you mentioned that it may have come up in conversation, but you said it wasn't really strictly a dress code or anything like that. So you went and found this dress, you checked with the bride, and it seemed like you got a green light for it, paid the deposit, and now the rules are changed and somehow OP's the problem. And what's with the other bridesmaids swooping in via the group chat to announce the dress code violations? Nobody asked you, dress police. Although probably that was the bride telling her to say that. And it's kind of one of those stories. Even though we got a very small little bit of information, I wonder what their relationship is really like. Is it as close as they think it is? But I kind of think, you step down, the relationship's going to be damaged anyway. You fight back, the relationship's going to be damaged. And I think you just need to be prepared for that either way. I'd probably want to step down if they're going to take the piss like this and they're giving me attitude. But the first commenter says, show her the message that she said okay to the dress and that's it. Opie said it was on Snapchat, so it's disappeared now, unfortunately, or else I would. Commenter replies saying, no matter what you do, this will damage your friendship. Who holds a grudge more, you or her? Fascination Street quotes, another bridesmaid has messaged our group chat saying the dresses are supposed to be satin or silk, and then says, who is this person to tell you what you can and can't wear to the wedding? If the bride has suddenly changed her mind because the above mentioned bridesmaid thinks she runs the show, time to nope out the entire thing. Organic says this, Text the bride directly and ask her straight up. Tell her you are seeking clarification because you thought she okayed your dress, but if there is a miscommunication, you want to fix the problem now. That offers her the chance to okay your dress again and do it through a text so there is a record. Avoid snap if anything you might need a paper trail on. So Opie comes in with her first update and says, "So I posted before about the bridesmaid's dress situation and thought I'd give an update. A lot of the backstory probably explains why I reacted the way I did, so here it is. I've been friends with the bride since school, about 15 years now. We don't speak all the time because we live about 2 hours apart, but once or twice a year we'd meet up and catch up. When she got engaged 2 years ago, she asked me to be one of her 2 bridesmaids, plus a maid of honor. Things started getting a bit weird early on. Back in October we had a bridal shower with bridesmaids and close family, which was fine. After that, the bride said she wanted a hen party. The mother of the bride went ahead and booked a hotel without asking any of the 3 bridesmaids first, and then expected us to split the cost of 2 rooms for the bride, the 3 of us, the mother and her friend. We all said no and told her she should try and get a refund because none of us had agreed to that. Trying to be helpful, I offered to host the hen party at my house instead. Honestly, I wish I hadn't. I spent months planning it. I bought decorations, organized games, did loads of food, set everything up at my house, the whole thing. The maid of honor was basically impossible to contact during the planning and ignored messages most of the time. The other bridesmaids mostly just turned up with a blow-up doll with a groom's face on it, which somehow ended up being the highlight of the night. After everyone left, I didn't even get a thank you message. Not from the bridesmaids, not from the maid of honor, not even from the bride. I actually haven't heard from any of them since that night. Because of that silence, I just decided to sort my own dress out. I live 2 hours away from them and don't drive, so organizing group shopping trips wasn't really practical anyway. I found a dress I liked and sent it to the bride before putting the deposit down. She didn't say there was an issue at the time. Then out of nowhere, I got a pretty rude message from other bridesmaid and the maid of honor saying they thought we were all supposed to decide on dresses together. Then it escalated. The bridesmaids messaged again, saying they had spoken to the bride and groom and they weren't happy and would rather make her the joint maid of honor so I don't stand out too much. There are literally only 3 bridesmaids including me, so it felt like a really strange thing to say. She told me she can be a bitch if she has to be, and then offered to buy me a cheap champagne dress instead. On top of that, she also said the bride was worried about numbers at the wedding and they were no longer inviting children. She told me this in a way that made it sound like my daughter and my mum wouldn't be invited anymore. I hadn't even heard that directly from the bride myself, and at that point I didn't even know if my boyfriend was still invited either. Being told all of that through another bridesmaid instead of the bride felt really strange and honestly quite hurtful. At that point I didn't reply to her at all. I went straight to the bride instead because we'd been friends for 15 years and I thought if anyone was going to be honest with me, it would be her. I told her that if she didn't like the dress, that would have been the time to say it when I showed her before paying the deposit. I also said I was really taken aback by the messages and comments from the other bridesmaids and that it had made me feel uncomfortable enough that I was considering not attending the wedding at all. Now I'm waiting to see what she says back. Honestly, at this point, I'm starting to feel like I've put in way more effort than anyone else and I'm somehow ended up being the problem. But OP comes in with another update and says, firstly, thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. I genuinely didn't expect it to get the amount of attention it did. The advice and different perspectives really helped me calm down and figure out how to handle things. Update after hearing back from the bride. After waiting for her to reply to my last message, she finally got back to me. In short, she said she actually has no problem with the dress at all and thinks it's beautiful. The color is the one that we agreed on, champagne, and she said from the start that as long as the dresses were that color, we could wear whatever we felt comfortable in. She said the situation seems to come as a surprise to the other bridesmaids because they didn't realize I had already paid a deposit for my dress. But she also said she can't speak for what's been said in their group chat. She also told me she was really upset that I was considering stepping down because she'd always planned for me to be a bridesmaid since we were younger. As for my daughter, she said she never told anyone that she wasn't invited. She said she's still figuring out numbers and that she and her fiance had already talked about not having children at the night reception. But the rest of the day is still something they're working out and she said she'd let me know, as we had discussed before. My reply. I thanked her for explaining everything and told her I never wanted to cause any stress around her wedding. Honestly believed everything was fine when I showed her the dress before I paid the deposit. However, because of everything that's happened, I told her I feel it might be best if I step down as a bridesmaid, as I don't want any tension around her big day. I also told her that I love her and hope she has the most amazing wedding day. Where things stand now. At the moment, I'm still feeling really uncomfortable about the whole situation, and I don't see how me continuing as a bridesmaid would lead to a good outcome for anyone after all the drama. I'm not someone who likes conflict, and I didn't appreciate being spoken to in such an aggressive tone by the other bridesmaid. It also leaves me in a difficult position because I've heard completely different versions of events. Either the bridesmaid has massively misrepresented things to me, or the bride is now saying something different. I honestly don't know which is the truth, and that uncertainty is another reason I feel stepping back is the best option. Looking back, I can see how I maybe could have handled things differently. I've never been a bridesmaid before, and I was honestly just really excited about it and wanted to get everything sorted early, which is why I went ahead and bought the dress once I thought everything was agreed. For context as well, me and the other bridesmaids have never had any issues in the past. This bridesmaid is the bride's current best friend, and she has mentioned that the bride wanted her to speak for her as she is very stressed over the whole wedding planning. I don't know her particularly well, but we've always been friendly and I've never had a problem with her before. Her messages just caught me completely off guard. For now, stepping down feels the least dramatic option, so there's no stress around the wedding. And again, thank you to everyone who commented and helped me think things through. Brief Horror says, the friend sounds jealous and you should definitely think she's lying until you hear from the bride. Sunny Girl replies saying either that or the bride is expressing her displeasure through the other woman. I'm not sure this friendship, never mind the wedding nonsense and expense, is worth the angst it's causing. Only OP can say how close she and the bride really are, but I find myself wondering whether she was asked to be a bridesmaid because the bride has run through a supply of friends who live closer and spend more time with her. Destro says, why are you doing all the maid of honor shit when you are not the maid of honor? You're just a bridesmaid. Don't show any initiative on your own, just wait for instructions. That being said, not the arsehole. Just take a step back and let the bride and maid of honor figure shit out. If they can't, then you wouldn't be an arsehole for bowing out. Aggravating says, just back out. Life is too short for this kind of petty drama. Wish her well and maybe attend as a guest. You already gave the gift of a party, not the arsehole. And there was a mix of comments on the back of this one. Some people calling OP out for not communicating properly, other people blaming the bridesmaids, other people blaming the bride and saying, she's just using the bridesmaids to get her words across. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Sit and Think from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, and it says, am I the arsehole here for telling my wife that if I waited for her to make memories with our son, we wouldn't have any? Last weekend, I 39 male helped my son, 14 male, dye his hair purple. Or my good friend who actually knew what he was doing helped me dye my son's hair while I was there for music requests and object fetching. It was such a fun day and I could tell how happy it made my boy. I didn't tell my wife before we did this, and that was the catalyst to the fight we're currently having. But for me, it's so much more than this one incident. My wife has been hands off with our child for a while now. His soccer games, little road trips to nearby amusement parks, back to school shopping. She's too busy with work or too tired from work. So I've mostly stopped having the conversations. Why would I waste my breath to have the same conversations on repeat? The night we dyed his hair, she started crying while we were talking, saying we're making all these memories without her. I asked her what she expected me to do. If we waited for her to make memories, we'd be sitting in a dark room 100% of the time. My son isn't even really comfortable with her anymore. There is no, I can't take you, go ask your mum. Now it's, I'm sorry I can't take you. Let me see if friend is free that day. My wife isn't speaking to me now, and I'm wondering if I took it too far. I don't know. I was hoping some brutal honesty would change something. I would have loved having more kids, but I guess it's for the best now that she said no. Edits, I'm a stay-at-home dad. The original plan was for me to start working again when our son went to kindergarten, but my wife was gunning for a promotion around that time and asked me to be stay-at-home longer. Once she got the promotion, her hours increased, so that time was extended once again. I'm responsible for all the household chores and general homemaking tasks. I cook, clean, do all the yard work, all the grocery shopping, etc. I do enjoy being a stay-at-home dad, but I've been ready and willing to rejoin the workforce for a decade now. At this point, I'll be getting a job when my son turns 16 and can get himself to and from school. But my wife still refuses to cut her hours even if I get a job, and gets frustrated every time I bring it up. There is no point in forcing my son to ride the bus or figure out a ride for himself if my wife still won't make the effort or compromise in order to spend time with him. Crumpled Spoon says, listen, this could easily be a gender swap story. There are so many am I the arseholes here about wives who stop trying to artificially create moments for their husbands to be dads. And you are just as not the arsehole as they are. Being a parent is so much more than financial support. It's about emotional presence. You are there for your son, and it hurts him each time your wife has said that she doesn't have time to be there for him, that it now hurts him less to ask. Your son is the priority, not your wife's feelings. She is reaping the consequences of being a parent in finances only. Keep parenting your son. Don't hold back your love for him to make her feel less guilty. Not the arsehole. EACA says not the arsehole. Your kid cannot go into stasis until your partner magically has time. Literally nothing works that way. The things you do now are the childhood memories your child is going to have. My ex was super checked out on the kids until we divorced. It was like he kind of realized that he wasn't being that bad, because if he was that bad, I would leave, and me saying I was leaving upended his denial. For what it's worth, this got my career moving again, and now I do sometimes have to say no to my kids because of work, but I try to create time for them around work obligations, and their dad is now available. There is no guarantee it works that way for everyone, so I guess do what you're doing. Have the moments with your child as they come at you, and tell your wife that the only way she gets those moments is to take them. Some of my best times with my kids have been tiny things. Stand by the front door and yell that you're going to the store for snacks, and $20 will get you half an hour of delightful teenage company. And one more comment who says, dude, more power to you. I was so lucky that my wife and I both loved being parents. Never had this issue. Being a dad is the most fulfilling, fun thing I've ever done, and I've pretty much spent my life pursuing fulfillment and fun. Keep at it. Don't let her stuff bring you down. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So it was 7 months later, OP came in with her update and said spending more time on Reddit to keep up with political happenings led me to remembering I made this account a while ago. The divorce should be finalized within the next 2 months. Before filing, I tried to get my soon-to-be ex-wife to attend counseling with me, but she always refused. The only real answer I have in regards to why all this happened was her finally admitting she cared more about her career than being a wife or mother. Our original custody agreement was going to be me with primary custody, and he'd stay with her every other weekend. That has since changed. My son's made it clear he wants to speak in court and staying with me full time, so she agreed to that without dragging him to speaking to a judge. She can come see him whenever she wants. So far, she has visited once and called him a handful of times. I'm happy to be moving forward for my son's sake. I don't understand my ex at all. I started going to therapy myself to wrap my head around the past few years. A lack of any sort of motherhood instinct felt like it was bordering on sociopathic. Finally, remember to be kind to stay-at-home parents. I'm not one anymore, but the fact that my last post had to be locked because people were being so ridiculous towards me for that reason alone says a lot. They have the best job in the world, but also a very hard one. Thank you. A commenter says to OP, I was a stay-at-home mum for a little over 1 year. Going back to work was a much easier job. Don't get me wrong, I cherish that I spent time with my kids. However, at work you get to take breaks, eat lunch, have adult conversations, etc. It was definitely less exhausting. Hats off to stay-at-home parents. OP says the biggest thing I've noticed since rejoining the workforce is that I'm more confident in myself and my abilities. I certainly loved all that time I got to spend with my son, and I do love keeping up a household, but I'm glad to feel a little more established within the world once again. A commenter says, wow, your wife sounds like someone who should never have had kids. I'm sorry for your son. Good luck on finalizing the divorce. And one more commenter says, at least the son has an awesome, caring dad with OP. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. Truly, it's absolutely amazing. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.